You step onto an actual construction site and all the predictability of a factory floor, it just completely vanishes.
Yeah.
You're dealing with mud, with unpredictable weather, and a landscape that literally changes shape every single hour. It's just chaotic.
Oh, absolutely. And yet, despite all that chaos, 2 startups have just raised a combined $25 million to put self-driving equipment directly into that mud.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
And the results they're pulling in are honestly completely ridiculous. Like on a live airport extension project down in Austin, Texas, an autonomous roller cut daily downtime from 6 hours to under 1 hour.
Right.
That's an 83% reduction over just a 30-day period.
And the craziest part is they achieved that massive drop in downtime without reducing a single labor hour and, without ripping out their existing fleet either.
Yeah, and the biggest players in the industry are already moving on this. I mean, Bechtel, Mortenson, and Mastech are already in the pipeline.
Yep.
After ConExpo 2026, 200 contractors just immediately jumped on the wait list.
They did, yeah.
And we're tracking all of this through Smart Business Automator's market intelligence platform, which maps out the construction tech trends that are actually proving their ROI in the field. So today we're doing a deep dive into the mechanics of this autonomous construction revolution that's happening right now in 2026. Here is what you need to know before your competitors do.
So the hardware and software making this possible, they're completely bypassing that old idea that you have to buy like a $2 million futuristic robot just to get autonomy. The first major player taking this pragmatic approach is Crewline AI.
Okay, let's unpack this. Crewline AI.
Yeah, so they recently closed a $7.1 million seed round led by Initialized Capital and Nebular. And their entire model is based on retrofitting the iron that contractors already own.
Right, so they developed this autonomous construction roller retrofit kit, and it installs in approximately 1 hour with absolutely zero permanent modifications to the machine. But mechanically, how does a 1 hour bolt-on kit actually steer a 10-ton piece of heavy machinery? You aren't installing mechanical arms to pull levers, right?
No, you don't have to, because most late model heavy machinery is already drive-by-wire.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The manual joysticks in the cab, they're just sending electrical signals to the machine's control unit. So the Crewline retrofit acts as sort of a parasitic nervous system. It taps directly into the machine's existing CAN bus network.
Okay, so it just intercepts the manual controls.
Right. It intercepts those controls and injects its own steering, braking, and propulsion commands electronically.
So from the operator's perspective on the ground, the workflow is just entirely digital.
Yeah, completely.
You take a tablet, you draw a geofence around a specific work zone, and the roller just autonomously compacts the dirt within that boundary.
That's it.
But, a 10-ton roller moving on its own is a massive liability if the safety systems aren't bulletproof.
Oh, for sure. So the sensor suite handles the immediate spatial awareness. You have 360-degree real-time safety monitoring. You've got obstacle detection and stereo depth perception.
Okay.
If a mass enters the machine's path, it stops. But the real leap forward here is how they're processing that visual data. They use vision language models, or VLMs, running directly on the device.
Hold on, let me push back on that a second. A camera is just a lens, right? It just sees pixels.
Right.
So in a muddy, torn-up trench, a piece of scrap wood looks almost identical to a critical survey stake. If a 10-ton roller crushes a survey stake, you lose the grade, and the rework is going to cost you thousands. How does a VLM actually differentiate between a critical stake and random scrap wood?
Well, generalized computer vision struggles with exactly that, which is why Crewline isn't using a generalized AI. They are using VLMs trained specifically on construction environments.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, a standard object detection model just sees a vertical cylindrical shape and registers an obstacle. But a vision language model pairs those visual inputs with semantic language understanding. It has ingested millions of parameters of construction data, so it calculates the contextual value of what it's looking at.
So it understands that, like a neon-painted stick in a freshly graded zone carries semantic meaning. It knows it's a survey stake.
Exactly. It recognizes manhole covers versus puddles. It specifically recognizes human workers, distinguishing between, say, a person in high-vis gear bending over to pick up a tool and just an orange traffic barrel.
Wow.
It's assigning linguistic meaning and context to the pixels, which allows it to make really nuanced safety decisions in real time. And if the environment becomes too ambiguous, there is a manual override capability available at any time.
I mean, this is like taking a perfectly good but dumb 10-year-old TV and plugging in a streaming stick to make it a smart TV, but for heavy machinery.
That's a great analogy, actually.
And this contextual awareness is what made that Austin Airport extension project possible. The data shows downtime plummeted from 6 hours a day to under 1 hour. But what really stands out in the report is the labor utilization.
Yeah, that's the key.
The contractor didn't cut their payroll. The operators who would normally be trapped in the cab of that roller, enduring 8 hours of bone-rattling vibration just driving back and forth, they were redeployed.
Right, because compaction is a critical path task, but it is highly repetitive. By handing that repetition over to the crew line system, the contractor took those human hours and applied them to complex, variable tasks on the site that actually require human ingenuity and problem solving.
So they essentially got significantly more productive output out of the exact same labor hours.
Exactly. The output of the site skyrocketed because they effectively multiplied their skilled workforce.
That makes sense. And the pipeline for this specific retrofit is massive. Bechtel, Mortensen, and Mastech are involved, alongside Hayden Companies and Ames Construction. That wait list of 200 contractors from ConExpo, that represents $26 million in potential annual contracts for Crew Line.
It does, and they are aggressively expanding the roadmap beyond rollers, too. They're targeting bulldozers, motor graders, dump trucks, wheel loaders, and excavators next.
Wow, okay, so Crew Line is clearly proving out the hardware retrofit model. But there's an entirely different approach gaining serious traction that relies strictly on software, which brings us to Xpanner.
Yes, Xpanner.
They've raised $38 million in total funding, including an $18 million Series B led by Korea Investment Partners and KB Investment.
Yeah, so Xpanner is operating on a framework called Software-Defined Machinery, or SDM. They are proving that the construction industry is ready for a pure software subscription model for autonomy.
Wait, so if Crew Line taps into this TAN bus with the physical hardware kit, how is Xpanner adding automation capabilities without requiring any hardware replacement at all?
Well, they're leveraging the fact that modern equipment is essentially a massive computer on tracks already. The hardware architecture for autonomy, the sensors, the telematics, the electronic control units, that's already built into a lot of the newer fleets by the original equipment manufacturers.
Okay, so the hardware is there, it's just dormant.
Basically, yeah. What's missing is the intelligent operating system to command it. Xpanner provides that software layer. You subscribe to their platform, and it unlocks the autonomous capabilities latent in the hardware you already own.
Ah, I see. And their current field-ready automations are highly specialized right now. They're heavily focused on piling and material handling, specifically for utility-scale solar, battery storage, and data center construction.
Which makes perfect sense when you look at utility-scale solar. You're talking about driving tens of thousands of steel piles into a flat desert over hundreds of acres. It is the definition of a location-constrained, highly repeatable task. It is perfectly suited for software-defined machinery.
And the financial metrics Xpanner is hitting are unprecedented. Looking at the data here, they have cleared $31 million in cumulative revenue, with 90% of that coming from the U.S. market. And they're posting 10x U.S. revenue growth year over year.
Not to mention, they're already active with 19 of the top 20 U.S. solar EPC firms, and they hit sustainable profitability in Q1 of 2026.
Which is wild.
Hitting profitability this early in the life cycle of a deep tech company is rare. It usually indicates that the product is solving a pain point so severe that customer acquisition costs are rock bottom.
Well, wait, here's where it gets really interesting. The data says they have zero customer churn. Zero churn is basically unheard of in construction tech. Is that because the switching costs are too high once the software is integrated, or is the ROI just that undeniable?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's definitely the ROI. They never turn it off because it directly neutralizes the most severe operational threat contractors face today.
Labor shortage.
Exactly. The reason Crew Line and Xpanner are seeing these massive waitlists and zero churn isn't just because contractors suddenly love tech startups or cool software. It's because the industry is backed into a corner by a structural labor shortage.
And to be clear, the source material notes that this workforce pool is physically shrinking, and it's a structural issue, not a temporary cyclical dip. The reports state that current immigration enforcement policies are acting as an accelerant to a workforce pool that's already heavily constrained.
Right, and Just to impartially convey what the data shows here, when you have fewer operators available every single month, but the demand for infrastructure, solar fields, and data centers is surging, the math simply breaks.
Yeah.
Contractors are being forced to decline bids simply because they cannot guarantee they will have the bodies to man the equipment.
Which is why these specific solutions fit so perfectly. They are construction-specific systems. They aren't clumsily adapted from warehouse robots or automotive factories, and because both platforms work on existing equipment, there is no fleet replacement required.
Exactly. You avoid the massive CapEx hurdle. I mean, if a contractor has to drop $2 million on a bespoke autonomous bulldozer, the board is going to require months of risk analysis.
Right, but if the solution is a software subscription or a one-hour retrofit on a machine they have already paid off, that barrier to entry evaporates. Let's walk through this specific ROI example from the data, because the math scales incredibly fast.
Let's do it.
So let's say a human roller operator costs $38.73 per hour. On a standard 10-hour shift, you're paying $387 a day in pure wages.
But the fully burdened cost is significantly higher than that. Once you factor in benefits, overhead, workers' comp, and the site management required to supervise that operator, your actual cost is much heavier.
Exactly. Now, if the autonomous system eliminates 5 hours of equipment downtime per day on adjacent operations, meaning the graders and the pavers aren't sitting idle waiting for compaction to finish, the monthly productivity value generated can actually exceed the cost of the automation subscription within the first 2 weeks.
The technology pays for itself in 14 days. The back half of the month is pure operational margin.
And again, an important detail to highlight from that Austin project is that this 83% downtime reduction wasn't achieved by firing people. The human workforce wasn't replaced to save that daily wage.
Right, those human hours were simply redeployed to other critical path work. You're paying them the same wage, but the value they generate for the project site is doubled.
Because they're no longer bottlenecked by the repetitive task the machine is now handling. Over 200 contractors are already ahead of the curve on this. The competitive advantage window is closing rapidly.
It really is.
Which is exactly why Smart Business Automator's market intelligence tracks which of these tech deployments are actually proving ROI in the field. So you, the listener, can invest in what actually works instead of science projects.
Absolutely.
So, pivoting to practical application here. For the contractors listening, what exactly should they do before they log off today? The source material outlines 6 specific actions. Let's run through the playbook.
Yeah, so step 1 is simply securing access. You need to visit crewlinai.com and xbanner.com immediately to get on their waitlist before they close.
To get in the queue.
Exactly. Step 2 is auditing your own operations. Identify your highest labor cost equipment operations. You're specifically looking for tasks that are repeatable and location constrained.
Step 3 is crucial. Run a pilot on one single project.
Yes. Do not attempt a company-wide rollout without a successful proof of concept first. You have to learn how this changes your site logistics on a small scale.
And that leads right into step 4, which is briefing your project managers early. They have to understand what this integration looks like before the pilots even start.
Right, because if a PM feels like this tech is being forced on them, they'll find a way to make it fail. Step 5 is leveraging the tech for profit. Update your project bids to include these automation options.
Wait, let me ask you about that bidding dynamic. So what does this all mean for the bidding wars? If you can promise a client that your timeline is insulated from local labor shortages because of this tech, does that actually win you the contract over a lower bidder who is relying solely on human labor?
Honestly, yes. Clients are highly responsive to narratives around efficiency and labor resilience. If a lower bidder has a reputation for pushing project timelines back by 3 months because they can't staff the site, the client bleeds capital.
Makes sense.
Proving that your critical path is insulated by autonomous systems is a massive differentiator.
Okay, and the final step, step 6.
Start a conversation with your bonding company right now about how integrating automation might positively affect your risk profile.
Lower risk, better bonding capacity.
Exactly.
So bringing it all together, the labor shortage crisis is the core problem threatening the industry right now. But autonomous construction equipment is a tangible, existing part of the solution today.
Right. Crewline and xBanner aren't conceptual. They are signing contractor agreements today.
And as these machines become the standard on job sites, I would leave you with a final thought to mull over. As this technology scales, the most valuable person on a job site might no longer be the person who physically operates the machinery, The highest premium might be on the person who orchestrates a hybrid fleet of humans and robots working in perfect synchronization. Are your site managers ready to become robot fleet commanders?
It's a huge shift. It completely redefines the skill set required.
It really does. Well, remember that Smart Business Automator is tracking which of these platforms are delivering real results in the field. So make sure to like, subscribe, and share this deep dive with a contractor friend who is currently wrestling with the labor shortage. And drop a comment below from whatever platform you're listening on with the exact equipment type you most need automated. Catch you next time.